All right, guys, let's begin. It's filming. Elizabeth? No. I just want it quiet. All right, now, let's talk about relative buoyancy in two different liquids. We're going to use fresh water and we're going to use salt water. Okay? Which one is more dense, fresh water or salt water? Salt water is more dense. Okay? Fresh water, it's about 1,000. About 1,000. And that's at 4 degrees Celsius. About 1,000. Okay? Salt water, depending, could be as much as 1025. Is that coming up? Can you see that? Yeah. 1025. Okay, let me write that a little neater. Okay. Okay? Yes? Now, if you are floating in fresh water compared to salt water, which one has a greater buoyant force? The salt water or the fresh water? If you are floating in fresh water compared to salt water, where are you going to have a greater buoyant force? The fresh water or the salt water? The salt water? Fresh water? Who says fresh? We're split, fresh and salt. Okay? Can I give you a hint? All right. Float. That's your hint. Float.
Salt water. Because it's more dense, so you float. It's more weight. It's more dense.
Yeah, but the FB, but your weight is greater.
You wouldn't believe the arguments, you know, how they're trying to convince me. All right, let's hear some of the arguments. Yes. Morgan, what'd you say? And I'll repeat them for you. Yes.
That in like the fresh water, you'll sink easier. And
the fresh water you sink more easily. The salt water you float more easily. But I said you're floating in both.
Yeah.
Okay, but okay. All right. All right. Carry on. Yes.
In the salt water, there's more water displaced.
In the salt water, there's more water displaced. Okay. Okay. I guess. That's fine. I'm not telling you what the answer is yet. The question is, if you're floating in salt water or fresh water, which one is going to have the greater buoyant force? Now, let me ask you this. Define for me float. Float means what? Float means what? Isn't float the weight equals the buoyant force? Isn't that correct?
Yeah.
Okay, so you're floating, right? Yes? Pick a weight. What's your weight, Mickey?
130.
130. 130 what? Miles an hour or
Pounds.
6 feet?
Pounds.
Pounds. Whoa, he got it right. Excellent. Right. He's 130 pounds. Good. So what's the buoyant force going to be in the salt water when you're floating?
130.
130 pounds, right?
Yeah.
Now in the fresh water where you're floating,
Oh, it's.
what's the buoyant force going to be?
It's the same.
The same.
Oh, trick.
Yeah, it's a trick question. A trick question is any question you get wrong. If you got it right, you wouldn't call it a trick question, would you?
No.
No, I don't think so. It's like a plane crashes on the border between the United States and Canada. Where do you bury the survivors?
You don't bury the survivors.
You don't bury survivors, right? There you go. So,
I was about to say Canada.
It's
for the record, Mickey was going to say Canada, okay? We don't want the paperwork. Is that what you're saying? Okay, fine. Okay.
Last time I heard that, I fell off my dinosaur.
All right. Now, so let me ask you again. If you're floating in salt water compared to fresh water,
It's the same.
which one is going to have a greater buoyant force?
Neither. They're
The same. The idea is floating. Yes?
Yes.
All right? Yes? Good?
Boom.
Ba-dum. Okay. Now let me ask you one more question with all of this, okay? If I have a ship, boat, ship, big ship, okay? Big ship, okay. And it's floating. It can float on salt water and it can float in fresh water, right? Where will it float higher? In salt water or fresh water? Where will it float higher? Where will it float higher?
Same.
Same? They're a mess today. I want you to know that. Okay? Ramian says it will float higher in fresh water. Okay.
I say salt.
Haley, you say salt water. Okay, now let me ask you this. Which one has a higher density?
Salt.
Salt water or fresh water?
Salt.
Okay, now. All right. So, what does floating, define for me the word float.
Equal weight and equal buoyant.
Weight equals buoyant force, correct? Yes? All right. Define for me buoyant force.
Word is split.
The weight
Displaced.
of the volume of fluid displaced. Okay? Yes?
Yes.
Okay. So let's say I have a ship. Let's say I have a ship. Okay. And in fresh water, it has to, and the ship weighs a kilogram. No, sorry, not kilogram. 10 newtons. The ship weighs 10 newtons, right? What's the buoyant force of the ship going to be when it's floating? 10 newtons, right? Okay, good. So if the ship has a weight of 10 newtons and it's floating, it will have a buoyant force of 10 newtons, correct? Okay. Which has a greater density? Salt water or fresh water? All right. What is the mass of 10 newtons? 1 kilogram, right? Okay, 1 kilogram. So 1 kilogram right? 1 kilogram which one is going to have a larger volume to get 1 kilogram? The salt water or the fresh water? Which one's going to have the greater volume? The salt water or the fresh water? Okay. We're saying that the ship is 10 newtons, right? Correct? It's floating. Salt water, fresh water, correct? Okay. This is the fresh side. This is the salt side. Fresh water, salt water. Okay? Yes? Yes or no? You with me? Okay. What mass does 10 newtons represent? 1 kilogram. That's the ship. Correct? So the mass in fresh and salt is going to be the same, correct? Yes or no? Okay, good. Now, so this is 1,000 I'll leave off the unit labels. Is that okay? Looks a little cleaner, right? Okay. Equals 1 over V. Which one is going to have the larger volume? 1 over 1,000, is that going to be larger? Or is 1 over 1,025 going to be larger? Which one's going to be larger? Which one's going to be larger? Come on, guys, you can do this. What's a larger number? 1 over 1,000 or 1 over 1,025? 1 over 1,000. It's going to be larger, right? So this has a larger volume. Smaller. Correct?
Yeah.
Is that correct or not? Okay, good. Let me erase this for a second, okay? Can I erase all this stuff? So we said this is going to have a larger volume, this will be a smaller volume, correct? All right, now. Okay, so the volume is going to be 1,000, sorry, 1 kilogram over 1,000 kilograms per cubic meter, right? Correct? Okay. This is fresh. This is salt, right? Okay? And the volume here will be 1 over 1025. All right, you all right with that? This is fresh. Okay, good. Yes? Yes? So which one is going to have a greater displacement of fluid? The fresh water or the salt water? What's going to have a greater displacement of fluid? The fresh water is going to have a greater displacement of fluid. Isn't that what we said?
Yes.
So that'll have a greater displacement. Therefore, which one, the fresh water or the salt water, does the ship have to sink into the water more? The fresh water or the salt water?
So,
The fresh water. Which one is going to have a greater volume?
right.
The fresh. So the fresh, this is the fresh. So the ship has to sink less water, correct? More dense, right? Don't you need 10 newtons of water? Is it easier, isn't 10 newtons of salt water, doesn't that take less volume than 10 newtons of fresh water? So which one's going to sink? Which one's going to ride higher? Isn't that what I originally asked?
Yeah.
Which one's going to ride higher in the water? The salt water, the ship in salt water, or ship in fresh water? Ramian? Salt will ride higher, correct? You get it?
Yeah.
Interesting, isn't it?
Yeah.
I'm exhausted. Thank you.